definitely that can oftentimes be derailed with injuries. That can be a frequent thing, and we're already dealing with it now. There looks to be some injuries that are going to shape up ADPs as we go into this weekend. I believe the most popular time of year for fantasy drafts to kick off now that the preseason has officially wrapped up. So we'll get into all of that. Just getting this set up, and then we will be good to go. As always, so that I can do these drafts with you guys, I have to set this room up real time. So go ahead and skip ahead for a minute or two if you're catching us now. And we'll get the conversation started shortly. I think we're off and running now. I thought we were anyway. Okay, I think we're good now. Not quite yet. So many little things to remember to keep tabs on. And let me let my Discord friends know. All right, we're off and running. Yeah. Just when you get excited about football season, injuries can potentially derail the start of that. We'll go over a couple of those today before I fire off the draft. This one will be a little bit more casual. It's not going to be a tournament style entry. It's just going to be a straightforward $3 entry. No tournament advancement involved. It's just going to be a straight 17-week best ball where at the end of 17 weeks, winner take all. The true definition of best ball without any tournaments involved. Tournaments are obviously the most fun to play because they've got the most, the largest potential payouts in the form of prizes and the excitement of potentially advancing through the knockout rounds, which is the equivalent of the fantasy football playoffs in standard redraft leagues, is a lot of fun, to accept that challenge, try to take that challenge on. But today's will be a little bit more low key, lower stakes, smaller entry fee, straight 17 weeks of fantasy football. That is the best ball that I'll kick off today. I'll leave it up for a little while if there's anybody who's able to join me or is interested in joining me. Those fill much slower than the tournaments do, and the entry fee is much less, maybe around a $3 entry fee for the cheapest option on Underdog. So we'll kick that off. But first, let's talk shop on what happened today. Starting with Jerry Jeudy. A couple hours ago, it was reported that he went down in practice, grabbed his hamstring. The cart had to come out for him. There were other details that I read that the team surrounded him on the cart. That was just something that I read on Twitter. I'm not verifying or confirming that happened one way or another. The vibes right now, even though we haven't really heard anything as far as an official diagnosis, the vibes are negative. The vibes are more on the pessimistic side. probably looking at a multi-week absence. We're hoping we avoided something significant here. Jeudy has dealt with hamstring injuries before. Hamstring injuries, soft tissue injuries in general, are ones that can and often do linger. We're hoping this is a 3 to 4 week absence. We're bracing for worse, right? I've seen on Twitter that it's possible we're looking at a 6 to 8 week absence for Jerry Jeudy. We're obviously hoping that a worst case scenario is avoided. We will probably get information tomorrow. I don't imagine that we will get any more information on him tonight, on Thursday, the 24th, just before kickoff of the final preseason week. We will get information on Friday about Jerry Jeudy. If it's a 3 to 4 week injury, his ADP is not going to change too much. If you know he's going to miss the first month of the season, but that is the short timeline that is diagnosed, I guess, as far as the injury goes, I would say his ADP drops less than a round. I think his ADP right now is in the 37, 38, 39 range. Maybe he falls to the 45 to 50 range. If it's a 6 to 8 week injury, not only are you going to be without Jerry Jeudy for the first half of the season, but now it's even more of a concern because of the severity of the injury, that it's something that he will have to deal with, and it will potentially linger even after he returns, potentially setting up an injury-marred, injury-plagued season where Jeudy is, I guess, once again, unfortunately, not able to hit his ceiling, reach his potential, maximize what we think Jerry Jeudy can be when healthy. At that point, I've been bullish on Jerry Jeudy. I called him a top 15 receiver, or he's got at least that upside to do that this season. I stopped short of calling him a bona fide wide receiver 1 this year, but I do think he had top 15 upside coming into the season healthy. If we get a diagnosis that this is a 6 to 8 week injury, I'm probably going to be out at that point. He will return to the field in that scenario. He'll be back, let's say, by weeks 9 or 10, depending on what the Broncos bye week is. I can look that up right now. I feel like it might be week 9. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Maybe that was their bye week last year, but I feel like that might be it. It is. It's week 9. If it's a 6 to 8 week injury, we've lost Jerry Jeudy until week 10. They're not going to bring on that timeline. I have a hard time imagining they're going to bring him back on the shorter side of that timeline, which would be week 7, to play him for 2 games, probably ahead of recovery schedule, just for them to go on bye week in week 9. If they determine that it needs to be a 6 to 8 week timetable, I have to imagine we're not going to see Jerry Jeudy until week 10. And I know that we're also accounting for 2 weeks prior to the actual start of the regular season. So maybe that means that Jerry Jeudy is able to come back by week 6 or 7. You're still playing with some real fire, hoping that the Broncos are even in a position where, and whatever that position is, where it makes sense for them to bring Jeudy back, say, on the shorter end of the recovery timeline when they're staring at a week 9 bye anyway. They could hold him out until then, give him extra time to come back from the injury, and by week 10, he's able to return to form. He's able to return to the field anyway. Return to form that's another thing. That's going to be a completely different story if he's going to be 100% again right out of the gate with a soft tissue injury that people are already speculating could be on the more severe side, the 6 to 8 week recovery side. I don't think we can draft Jerry Jeudy at this point. I have about 13% exposure to him on Underdog Fantasy. That's a pretty sizable exposure. Anything over 10% is a pretty strong investment. That this one hurts. This one hurts. You never want to see hamstring injuries. You never want to see injuries of any kind. I always preach that. I mean, most people do. And we'll of course wait on the diagnosis. We'll see what the doctors say, whatever comes of, whatever the medical professionals find. We're going to have to wait until tomorrow on that, but the vibes have been kind of icky so far. We hope that it's better than how it feels right now. Courtland Sutton gets a bump. Marvin Mims gets a bump. Marvin Mims had already been named the wide receiver 3 this offseason. I mean, if Jerry Jeudy has to miss time, Marvin Mims is going to see a majority of snaps on a game-to-game basis. He's already passed Kendall Hinton. He's passed Marquez Callaway on the depth chart. Marvin Mims has. If Jerry Jeudy has to miss time, Marvin Mims is slated for as close to an every down role as a rookie wide receiver 2 can handle. So both of those guys get a boost. I would say, Sutton is the guy to draft here. He's the veteran. But Marvin Mims just gained a ton of value as a guy who will get as much work as he could possibly handle if Jerry Jeudy is less than 100%. Sutton can be drafted now. It's got an ADP of it's in the 90s. I can check that. Marvin Mims' ADP has been buried around, south of 150. So that is the ADP that is about to go up because of how cheap he already is. Sutton's ADP is at 91.8 on Underdog Fantasy at the moment. I would imagine in drafts tonight, that goes up 10 spots. Depending on the news tomorrow, it could go up 20 spots. Courtland Sutton's ADP is about to go up. I would say at least 10 spots tonight until we get a definitive diagnosis on Jerry Jeudy. And then Marvin Mims as an ADP. It's been climbing, apparently. It's now up to 144. That's Marvin Mims is moving up. That's up to 144. I mean, he's going to step into a full-time role. What's going on, Alex? Good to see you, man. Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens with Judy's diagnosis. Sutton, stock up. Marvin Mims, stock up. And we'll go from there. The other big injury to the wide receiver, another wide receiver hurt is Jackson Smith-Njigba. Broke his wrist, 6-week recovery. This one sucks too. This is a rookie who is now going to be behind the 8 ball. And as good as he is, or as high profile as we expect Jackson Smith-Njigba to be, I mean, again, with the bye weeks, they have a week 5 bye. They originally said the Seahawks did that it's a wrist fracture and he could miss about a month, 3 to 4 weeks. That was yesterday. So if he misses 3 to 4 weeks, we're 2 weeks from week 1. So that puts him out for weeks 1 and 2. Right? Smith-Njigba is out for weeks 1 and 2. The other side of that coin is that Pete Carroll is notoriously a difficult person to trust when it comes to giving some type of timeline as far as having suffered an injury and what we're looking for as far as they're working their way back. That's all that to say, I don't trust Pete Carroll with his timelines. He says 3 to 4 weeks. I am now cautiously pessimistic that we're not going to see Jackson Smith-Njigba until week 6. Could miss 3 to 4 weeks, like these vague, right? They not a lot of details. It's like a very fluid update where we don't get a definitive concrete. Like he could miss 3 to 4 weeks. It's like, okay, I could eat chicken or beef tonight. Like I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. Like these vague, like this doesn't give us anything. And with Pete Carroll's regular failure to disclose complete information, or whether he's just regularly flat out wrong, his track record of trusting him with timelines with injuries is not one that you hold in high regard. No offense to Pete Carroll. So could miss 3 to 4 weeks. The season is 2 weeks away. So let's go ahead and rule out Smith-Njigba for weeks 1 and 2. They also have a week 5 bye week. Are they going to rush what they hope to be a cornerstone player for them for years to come? Are they going to rush that player back 2 weeks before a bye week just for the sake of doing it? I can't imagine they do that with a guy that they just drafted in the first round this year. They want to be cautious with him. They want to make sure he's 100%. There's no need to rush him back for the first 5 weeks of the season if he's already expected to miss the first 2 weeks of the season and they have an early bye week. I'm going to go ahead and assume that Jackson Smith-Njigba is out until week 6. So short-term stock up for DK Metcalf, short-term stock up for Tyler Lockett. I'm not moving DK Metcalf up my rankings just because of this, because he's already pretty high to begin with. I said this on Tuesday. I like DK Metcalf in the 4th round last year. I'm not as crazy about him at the top of the 3rd round this year. So I'm not moving up his rankings. I'm not moving him up my rankings. I will move Tyler Lockett up my rankings a bit for sure, because his ADP was basically neck and neck with Smith-Njigba for the entire offseason. One was going 57th overall. One was going 58th overall. One was going 63rd overall. One was going 64th overall. It was just a matter of each draft and how it played out. They were both being drafted within 5 picks of each other, probably 90 to 95% of the time. Lockett's ADP, I will move up. I will push him up my short-term rankings. He gets a short-term boost. He's a guy that you can draft in the 50 to 55 range now. And probably, honestly, maybe closer to the 50 range than the 55 range, because those first 5 weeks, first 4 weeks anyway, Lockett finished as a low-end wide receiver 1 last year. Without Smith-Njigba, he's a low-end wide receiver 1 again. So for that first month of the season, you're getting potential wide receiver 1 low-end upside for the first month. So, yeah, I'll take Lockett 50 overall. And, yeah, he'll probably come back to earth when Smith-Njigba returns to the lineup down the stretch. But you're still talking about a guy who, rolls out of bed and scores 8 touchdowns a season. I don't think there was any sign of decline with Tyler Lockett last year. I think from a value perspective, Lockett, not Metcalf, is the beneficiary here when you consider that they were both being drafted so close together to begin with. That's the guy I give a slight bump to. And just to take a look at some of the guys being drafted around him, I don't know that I would take him over Deontay Johnson, who is, you guessed it, my favorite 5th round target as far as wide receivers go this year. I would take him over the Bucs receivers for sure. I think I take him over Christian Kirk. The conversation now is, do you take Tyler Lockett over Terry McLaurin? You might. You might. You might want to take Tyler Lockett over Terry McLaurin now. Because Terry McLaurin is dealing with turf toe. Again, the wide receiver injuries are hurting right now for sure. I'm going to go ahead and assume Smith and Jigba is not there until week 6. That gives Tyler Lockett low-end wide receiver 1 upside for the first month of the season. He moves up my rankings. I still think I would take Deontay Johnson over him, but I think I would take Christian Kirk, Brandon Ayuk, and I would take Tyler Lockett over Christian Kirk, Brandon Ayuk, and Terry McLaurin, the other receivers that are just ahead of Tyler Lockett in based on Underdog ADP. That's where the cutoff is, but I think that's as far as I'm willing to go, as high as I'm willing to go with Tyler Lockett. The guy was a low-end wide receiver 1 yet again last year. Now the prize rookie for the Seahawks, Jackson Smith and Jigba, out. Could be 3 to 4 weeks with a broken wrist. I'm going to assume that that's a little bit longer given the early bye week for the Seahawks and Pete Carroll's track record of not giving, generally speaking, 100% accurate info when it comes to timelines to return. I will take Tyler Lockett in the 50th overall range over several wide receivers that have regularly been going ahead of him all offseason long. So those are the big injuries. I kind of waded into Terry McLaurin as a result. Stock up on Marvin Mims. Stock up on Cortland Sutton. Stock up on Tyler Lockett. DK Metcalf for me is flatlined. I can't push him any higher. His ADP is already around 31 to 33 range. And stock up on Jahan Dotson. Terry McLaurin dealing with turf toe. It's supposed to be mild. We know how this goes. That's like a potentially optimistic viewpoint. Turf toe is an injury that often does linger. We hear about this all the time. Turf toe is incredibly painful. It is something that does not go away very quickly. It is something that absolutely can and does hinder performance on the field when you're dealing with it. You're hoping because it's early and it's been diagnosed as quote unquote mild that Terry McLaurin will be fine by midseason, but that's hard to feel optimistic about right now, given the trends and tendencies that we've seen with players who have suffered turf toe. So stock up on Jahan Dotson until we get any more positive information, positive news at all regarding Terry McLaurin's turf toe. As of right now, he's uncertain for week 1. All right, with that, let's go ahead and fire off a draft so you guys can follow along with a thought process that as it plays out real time. This will be a smaller entry today. It's going to be a $3 entry, non-tournament. And I do believe these generally fill slower than the tournament entries. So we may be waiting on this for a bit, but that's okay. Let me check. There's $3 drafts. So I'm going to go ahead and join this now. It looks like we need some people to go ahead and enter this. It's got about, oh, look, it's filling. All right, cool. So this is a fast draft, just a $3 entry. 7 people to go, or excuse me, 7 people filled, 5 people to go. While I'm doing this, feel free to fire off any questions that you guys may have. Appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out today. Just getting our reps in, right? Getting some practice drafts in before redraft season officially kicks off. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to take them. Members, of course, we'll get first crack at getting questions answered, but I can help out as questions pop up. Two people left. This will fill shortly. Again, as always, I am not going to know my position until the draft fills. It looks like it just filled. And we'll see if we can navigate this, a couple of these injury reports in this draft. All right. So we are filled up, ready to go. What's this Cooper Kupp update? On track to play week 1. All right. Feel good about that one. Stephon Diggs is, I'm just looking at the guys that have little updates. Diggs is going to get some snaps in the preseason, I guess. What's going on with Jalen Waddle? Optimistic he'll be ready for week 1. Okay. Don't think we have to worry about Jalen Waddle. Hurts's update, I believe, is that he is not playing tonight. The Eagles and the Colts begin the final week of the preseason tonight. I think there's 2 games tonight. Philadelphia and Indianapolis are one of the 2. Jalen Hurts is not going to play. Josh Allen going to play? Yeah, he's going to play. If Stephon Diggs is going to play, you might as well send Josh Allen out there for a few snaps as well. Why did Mark Andrews miss practice? Unspecified injury. Nothing serious going on. Okay. Sounds like nothing to worry about there, so that's good. I have the 6th pick here. In the draft that I did, the best ball tournament that I did with Alex, actually, on Tuesday, I was aggressive and I grabbed Bijan Robinson. This is not like my favorite place to draft from this year, but so be it. I guess I'll just go chalk here. I'll take the safe play in Travis Kelce. I guess this is just, if the choice isn't something that you're like in love with, don't make no mistake, Kelce is spectacular. And deserving of a pick this high. It just feels like there is a lot of risk involved with drafting a tight end this high. Even a guy like Travis Kelce, like, will he be able to? He'll be the tight end 1. It's the question will be, is he worthy of the 6th overall pick? Does his production equal the 6th overall pick? When you typically take a running back or a wide receiver here. So super safe. I'll roll with it. It's fine. It probably makes sense for me to grab Mahomes, because I have Kelce, but this isn't a tournament, so I'm not necessarily going to pass on a potentially really good player if things break that way. If you have drafts this weekend, let me know what you're thinking. Let me know where you're picking from. I imagine there are probably a lot of drafts on Sunday, now that the preseason will have officially wrapped up by then. Of course, I will be available next week if you draft potentially the following weekend. Even later than this weekend in general. I will, of course, be around, can help out with that. But if you do have any drafts this weekend, there is a lot up in the air. These wide receiver injuries, we don't know what's going to happen with Jonathan Taylor. There's still a lot to be sorted out. So if you're working through that, if you're trying to figure out what to do at certain spots, or if there are guys that you were thinking about considering, or on the fence between a couple players, let me know. We can talk through that. So I'm going to have my pick between Jalen Waddle and Chris Olave here. He goes Olave. So this Waddle update, he's hanging around the main practice field rather than staying indoors. Okay. This could just be like a rest day for him. I hadn't heard that anything serious is going on with Jalen Waddle. I'll take him here at his ADP. That's fine. I'll take a guy who put up 200 half PPR fantasy points last year. Expect a similar output this year. The Dolphins just funnel targets to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. We'll chase that volume and take Waddle 19th overall. I do like the Calvin Ridley pick at 20. It is becoming clear you want to be aggressive with Calvin Ridley this year. The upside is incredibly strong. Attached to a great offense. One of the ascending quarterbacks of the NFL in Trevor Lawrence, maybe the ascending quarterback of the NFL in Trevor Lawrence. Man, I mean, they traded assets to get him last year. They clearly have a vision for him. They clearly have a plan for him. I don't mind being aggressive in the late second round, grabbing Calvin Ridley. Andrews and Hurts are going up next. So I will get, man, Jahmyr Gibbs' ADP is skyrocketing right now. It's incredible what some short little videos posted on Twitter will do. And I don't mean that as a slight at Jahmyr Gibbs. It's just that ADP is going up and up and up. And there goes Gibbs. I don't want Jonathan Taylor right now. I don't trust that this situation is, I don't know when it's going to resolve. I like Amari Cooper, but it feels gross or feels wrong to not take Josh Allen here. Remember, in best ball, I don't advise this I'm just going to take him. I don't advise this in redraft leagues. I do advise waiting on quarterback at least a little bit longer than this. But in best ball, when you can't play matchups, you can't stream good quarterback or like solid quarterbacks in great matchups. You are beholden to the schedule, and that's it. I'll take Josh Allen here. Take the safest quarterback on the board as far as Josh Allen is a weird player to define, but it's almost like the safest dude with the best ceiling. You safely know that he's gonna hit close to his ceiling. Had an elbow injury last year and still scored 400 half PPR points, or 400 4 touchdown 4 points for a passing scoring 400 points. I mean, Josh Allen is a freak. I hope a trade materializes for Jonathan Taylor. I talked about this on Tuesday. We hope a trade materializes. We're not sure if one's going to materialize. I hate this 6th pick. But we're going to make the most of it. That's what we're going to do. I mean, Taylor at 31 is certainly something that could work out very well. it's just, again, that's asking the Colts to accept less than market value for a player that they want market value for, even though they're not going to pay that player what he's worth. Not taking Jerry Jeudy here. I would love to see him, this time 48 hours ago, Jerry Jeudy falling to the 43rd pick, I'd be doing backflips. As of right now, there's no way. If we're bracing for a potential 6 to 8 week absence, we're hoping it's only 3 to 4. Even if it is a 3 to 4 week absence, this is still a little too early for me to take him officially. This 43rd pick, hamstring injuries linger, whether they're mild or major. And it's not a problem for me. I mean, look, we're all hoping for a great diagnosis on Jerry Jeudy. We hope the best for Jerry Jeudy. I hope that it's a best case scenario here. But until we know more, can't take him here. All right, I'm up in 10 picks after this pick. So, if I take a guy like Najee, looking at this range, or Tyler Lockett, man. All right, I'll take Najee. I'm not crazy. I still think Najee is going to be fine with volume. But I'm a little less bullish on him than I was at the start of the season. That being said, I do have some concerns about Travis Etienne. He's supposed to be a pass catching back, but they didn't really throw him the ball last year. And then all they did was add a lot of backs to this roster. They signed Ernest Johnson. They drafted Tank Bigsby. They retained JaMychal Hasty. Obviously, Travis Etienne is going to be ahead of all of these guys on the depth chart, but they already didn't throw him the football. They didn't draft Tank Bigsby to sit him on the bench. I mean, I'm a little worried about Etienne's potential volume. That's the concern here. I do like Breece Hall in this spot as well. I could have taken Breece Hall. Maybe that's what I should have done. I did originally rank Najee as my RB11 and Breece Hall as my RB12, though. So I'm sticking to my rankings. This person drafting now has 3 running backs. So I imagine they maybe want to deviate and grab a wide receiver. I'm going to assume Mike Williams will be gone. I'm not opposed to Aaron Jones if he gets to me, but I would prefer to get another wide receiver because I only have 1 through the first 4 rounds, and you'd have to start 3 receivers. So Walker is fine. Man, again, you may actually want to consider Tyler Lockett as early as this. Man, this is my conundrum. You leave me my favorite guy. You leave me Aaron Jones. It's hard to pass him up right here. I'm going to practice what I just preached. I'm going to practice what I just preached. I said it's something you should consider doing. I'm going to do it. Tyler Lockett at 54 overall officially feels like a spot where you can take him. I would have to imagine given this vague timeline that we're working with Jackson Smith and Jigba, it's very realistic we don't see him until week 6. It's very realistic. And excuse me, and then he's behind the 8 ball, right? He'll be spending his time rehabbing from the injury, not involved in football activities as a rookie, even one that we expect to be really good. He could still pop off. Maybe from week 6 on, he comes back, he bounces back from this, and he's one of the best receivers in the league. That can absolutely happen. We expect Smith and Jigba to have that type of talent. If not this year, then eventually in the short-term future. But there's more uncertainty now with him this year, just in general. Sounds like he's all but a lock to already miss the first couple weeks of the season. He's probably, I wouldn't put it past the Seahawks to shut him down until week 6, because week 5 is the Seahawks bye week. They are not going to want to mess around with a guy that they probably expect to be one of their cornerstones moving forward, because that's what first round picks are supposed to be. They're supposed to be cornerstones for your franchise. I might reach again and grab Jahan Dotson here. I might just play. See, again, maybe I'm overreacting a little bit to the potential injuries here, but Terry McLaurin is dealing with turf toe. We hope it's mild version of turf toe. And see, there you go. That's exactly, I guess that person might be listening to me right now. This is the game you got to play. If you see a guy who could potentially get a bump because of an injured player, I'm going to take J.K. Dobbins here, by the way, because actually, am I? I don't want Smith and Jigba. Yeah, I'm going to take Dobbins. He returned from the PUP list. I'll take it. And that feels like a pretty good value for him. You're going to see a guy's value go up when the other starter is banged up. Terry McLaurin's dealing with turf toe. Turf toe lingers. Jahan Dotson's value is about to go up. If you see his ADP at 70 and you're a pick like 59, 60, 61, that's where you're going to have to take that guy. He's not going to be there for you with the next pick. It's okay to be aggressive taking shots on guys who are actually healthy when their teammate isn't. This is going to be a weird team. I should have taken Gabe Davis instead of J.K. Dobbins, because there's good running back value down here. C'est la vie. Charlene, good to see you. As far as putting players on IR, teams aren't going to do that yet until they absolutely have to. They don't care about us and our fantasy teams, unfortunately. They're not going to make those transactions until they absolutely have to. Like, roster cut downs is not for another week. They don't have to make those types of transactions yet. So they're not going to. This person going to auto draft into, okay, took Dallas Goedert. I like Dallas Goedert this year. I think Goddard's going to be good. I will continue to draft Dallas Goedert over Kyle Pitts. All right. Well, I'll get either Jordan Addison or Michael Pittman here, so that's nice. There was a run on running backs that, it was a bigger run on running backs than I guess I was potentially expecting. There goes Addison. Yeah, I will take Pittman. I like Zay Flowers a lot, but I did just already grab a piece of the Ravens offense with J.K. Dobbins, so I'll diversify here a little bit. And with Jonathan Taylor's likely departure, or well, I don't know how likely it is, but with Jonathan Taylor's future with the Colts in serious doubt, whether he gets traded or not, it feels hard to imagine him suiting up for them. I mean, Michael Pittman should see even more work, even more opportunities, short throws, more short throws in the playbook to just get the ball to Michael Pittman. Easy plays that Anthony Richardson to make, get him comfortable. Just, throw a couple extra slants in there to Michael Pittman, And then again, maybe this is the guy that you're going to start wanting to consider in the next, like pretty much right now. Like now in this 80 range is, and even maybe a spot or two earlier, now is the time to start considering taking Cortland Sutton if you're pessimistic about Jerry Jeudy. I don't expect Sutton to survive the next 7 picks. If he does, I will gladly scoop him up. But you're going to see these guys' values go up. Which is the fallout from their teammates getting hurt. What was I thinking? I should have taken Gabe Davis instead of J.K. Dobbins because I have Josh Allen. Don't be like me, folks. Just draft better. But this is why we do these exercises, though. You practice it, you see it, you identify it. It's like, okay, I'm going to fix this for my next draft, for the one that counts, the real ones, the ones you do with your home league. Three picks away. I will take Sutton if I can get him, but I'm not holding my breath. If I cannot get him, I'm happy with either DeAndre Swift or Sky Moore. And there he goes. That's fine. I'm happy with either one of these guys. There goes Pacheco. There's a couple more running backs down here that I could hopefully end up with. So I waited a bit on wide receiver in this draft, so let's keep grabbing some. I'll take Sky Moore here. So many stacks I could have built in this draft, but didn't. That's okay. It's not a tournament entry, so it's not as vital. It's a nice thing to end up with, but it's not as vital. It's pretty good value for DeAndre Swift. It's just hard to trust what the Eagles are going to do in that backfield. Kenny Gainwell is the one who's getting all the first team reps in practice. And as always, if you guys have any thoughts about how this is playing out, if you like what I'm doing, if you I personally am not happy with how this shook out. I absolutely hate the 6th pick this year. I hate that middle of the draft. I'd rather be at the top or the bottom. So not thrilled about where I selected from the 6th pick, but that's the way the cookie crumbles, right? You have no control over that. You make the most of the situation, the hand that you're dealt, right? So personally, not thrilled with this. I could have stacked Kelsey. I took Kelsey, so I could have stacked with Mahomes. It's not as important to stack in non-tournament entries, so that's okay. But I missed on a stack. I opted for, so I took Josh Allen, which I'm okay with. But then I could have had a stack there with taking Gabe Davis instead of J.K. Dobbins. So I feel like I missed a couple of times. I missed a couple of times on some opportunities. But that's why we do this stuff. This is how we get better. Okay, weird little tight end run going here. I could certainly take one of these Washington running backs. I really think I feel stronger about Brian Robinson than I do about Antonio Gibson. Gibson will be the pass catching back, but they drafted Brian Robinson, I think, to be the 1A in this backfield. Well, the decision was kind of made for me. Gibson was drafted. I think I'm going to go Brian Robinson here. He's not flashy, but he was pretty good last year, all things considered. I mean, the guy handled 200 carries and totaled almost 800 yards after having gotten shot in the leg. They drafted this kid in the 3rd round. I think with a normal offseason and not some bizarre, awful incident like that happening again, I think he's in line for good workload. He's got a role on this offense regardless of the situation, because they want to run the football. Ron Rivera wants to run the football. So Brian Robinson has a role each week. Gibson, I guess, is the ceiling play. He has the upside because he's the pass catcher. And I'm not out on Antonio Gibson, but between the two of them, I do think I prefer Brian Robinson, which feels weird to say. I'm usually much more in on the pass catcher. But because the 1A is the guy who was being drafted later, it's only by a few draft spots, but usually the satellite pass catching back is the guy who is significantly cheaper than the starter. That's not the case with the Washington backfield. So I'll take Brian Robinson here. When you consider their roles and their cost. I think we have a few people auto drafting this draft. It is only a $3 entry, so you do have some, you have some people who probably step away. They're not paying as much attention. That's okay. These are still good reps. Don't mind, throwing $3 at this thing to ultimately tell myself, okay, I don't actually like how I did this. Let me take these notes, course correct, get better for this for the real drafts. And hope you don't end up with the 6th pick. So I could take Geno Smith to stack up with Tyler Lockett. He's a little less enticing now that he lost Smith and Jigba for probably the first month of the season. I I only have 4 wide receivers. I generally like to have my 5 or 6 receivers by the time I've gotten to the 11th or 12th round. So I only have 4 through 10. The options are drying up quickly. So the play could be to just go quarterback. Like Tyler Boyd, Juju Smith-Schuster, these are guys they're good NFL players. And Tyler Boyd certainly has a huge ceiling if anything happens to either Chase or Higgins, but I can get a stack here, and I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let's get Geno and Lockett locked up. And that'll still put me in position to get a wide receiver that I feel okay about. So, yeah, I mean, investing another top 120 pick in another quarterback after you take Josh Allen in the 3rd round. Again, I'm not psyched about how this draft is coming together. But that's okay. We practice these for a reason. If I lose $3, then I lose $3, you know? Some update that Sean Tucker is splitting first team reps with Rachaad White. Okay. Not terribly worried about that for Rachaad White. I will take. I'm not going to hold my breath that Nico Collins survives these next 4 picks. I would take Zay Jones. I would take Jacoby Myers. I want to get another wide receiver. I only have 4 through 10 rounds. I didn't really want Allen Lazard, so I'm okay with that, with him being off the board. We'll see. We'll see what's available to me here. I could have also stacked Dalton Kincaid with Josh Allen, but I already have Kelsey, so I don't feel as bad about that one. I would take Zay Jones. I would also take Jacoby Myers. All right. I'll take Zay Jones. I will take good players attached to good offenses, attached to good quarterbacks, right? Wide receivers attached to good quarterbacks are a little bit more enticing than wide receivers attached to not as good quarterbacks. So this range right here, Zay Jones, Darnell Mooney, Jacoby Myers. Those latter 2 names should be starters for their team. Zay Jones might be the 3rd receiver for the Jaguars. Actually, not might. He is the 3rd receiver for the Jaguars, but he's attached to Trevor Lawrence. I will take that over the wide receiver 2s attached to Jimmy Garoppolo and Justin Fields. We expect Justin Fields to take a step forward this year, but it's still going to be a low volume passing offense compared to Jacksonville. So I don't mind it. Cameron, what's going on? Suggestions for your draft. So, I mean, you want to play 2 things. If you're underwhelmed with your results, then, I mean, dare I say, do the exact opposite of what feels comfortable. Play to the strengths of the things you have control of. Your scoring and your starting lineup. It's full PPR. If you start three receivers, if it's full PPR and you start three receivers, you should come away with at least two receivers with your first three picks. Don't go running back heavy. Get wide receivers, especially in full PPR. It's a little bit more. You can go either way if you start only two receivers, but if you start three in full PPR, you have to come away with two with your first three picks. I mean, as far as like general suggestions, it's tough without knowing your pick and what the starting lineup looks like and guys that you like versus guys that you don't like. I mean, I would just say in a vacuum, I mean, play to the strength of your starting lineup, however many wide receivers you have to start, and play to the strength of the scoring. Full PPR, attack wide receiver. If it's otherwise standard, then, wait on running backs. Depending on the type of wide receiver that you get, try to stack him with his quarterback. Yeah, I mean, let the draft come to you otherwise. What am I going to do here? I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take... No! These guys keep taking my guys. Oh, damn it. I was going to take Marvin Mims. He was sitting right there. He was like, please draft me. I'm about to explode this year because my opportunity just went through the roof. And then the other guy took him instead before I could. All right. I'm just going to grab Michael Gallup because I wanted a wide receiver. I'll take a dude who's attached to a good offense. He's 2 years removed from his ACL injury now, so I'm going to believe in Michael Gallup. Well, that was disappointing, but I take solace knowing that there were a couple more wide receivers scooped right after I took one, so I'll live with it. Just a tease to next week. I will intend to go live once again Tuesday and Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern. And then after that is football season. So starting on September 9th, that's Saturday, I believe. Start sit help also at 6 p.m. Eastern. We'll fire up another start sit help Sunday morning. So I can be available for a couple hours leading up to kickoff. So no matter how your drafts shake out, no matter who you end up with on your team, we all know that we're going to be between one or two players when it comes time to set the starting lineup. I am here to help with that. Each Saturday and Sunday throughout the season, the members will get priority. If I see the members ask for members, and if anybody's feeling kind enough to offer supers, we'll take priority. But the intention is I try to get to everybody. If you ask a question, it'll go members and supers first, but then anybody can ask starts at help, and I will be sure to provide it. I don't imagine I'm going to get Raheem Mostert here, especially when you consider that there are some people who are auto drafting this draft right now, only in the 13th round. Come on, people. Yeah, we've got some auto drafters right now. That's all right. I will take Roshan Johnson if I can get him. I'm not crazy about taking Ezekiel Elliott here. I mean, I'm not crazy about taking Zeke here. I don't have a share of him this year. I'll roll the dice on a on. I'll do this one time. I will do this one time, and I will take Zeke. I will take the veteran, the guy who could just fall into the end zone a few times over the course of the season and give me a flex play. I already am not crazy about this team, so I might as well be more not crazy about it. And that's not to say that I'm throwing this draft away. I don't want you guys to think that I'm wasting your guys' time, but sometimes if you don't like your team and how it's turning out, just lean into how you don't like it and just, draft the dudes who you weren't expecting to ever take. You might surprise yourself. I mean, I've had plenty of teams that I was ecstatic about coming into the season and then they didn't turn out very well. I've had best ball teams where I look at them and I'm like, I hate this squad. And they're decent and they're solid. They're better than I ever expected they could be. We truly never know what's going to completely happen. I am up in 8 picks. So again, Allen and Geno Smith. Meh. I mean, Allen's really good. I spent another decent piece of capital on quarterback with Geno Smith. It's okay. Najee, Dobbins, Brian Robinson, Zeke as my running backs. Whatever. Waddle, Lockett, Pittman, Moore, Zay Jones, Michael Gallup. I went up higher on Tyler Lockett than usual because of the injury to Smith and Jigba. And then I have Kelsey. You have the best tight end in the league. So, I mean, there's enough to feel good about here. I feel a little like my wide receivers are a little leaky. I'm not crazy about the depth there. But Waddle should be good enough to deliver wide receiver one performances regularly. Tyler Lockett has been a low end wide receiver one for numerous stretches of his career, including last year in general. And with Smith and Jigba's injury, that potential certainly returned. Yeah, I mean, there's depth here. There's not a whole lot of frontline high end wide receiver talent I have, but that's the sacrifice you make when you grab Kelsey, which is fine. But then when you also grab a quarterback high, you have to hit on a lot of depth. You have to hit on a lot of like deeper picks for it to work out in your favor. I don't feel the need to draft a backup tight end right now because I have Kelsey. So I'm going to continue to just like take dart throws at wide receiver. Since if I don't feel great about my depth at wide receiver, I'm just going to keep attacking it. So through 14 of my picks, I have 4 more to make. So this is where obviously, drafts are typically going to end for redraft leagues, this 15th, 16th round. Nevertheless, as these injuries are going to continue to accumulate, you do want to make sure that you acclimate yourself with these names down here. Make sure you're familiar with these names with ADPs in the 200s. You're going to want to be aware of who these guys are. It's conceivable that some of these dudes, they're going to see their ADP tick up. Like I just found one, like Mecole Hardman. Corey Davis retired yesterday. Just straight up left, like just hung up the cleats in a move that I don't think a ton of people were initially seeing. They didn't see that coming. I mean, not that you guys don't know who Mecole Hardman is, but it's easy to gloss over these guys because it's like they're so far down the draft board. I'm never going to consider drafting them. You might get at a certain point. Now it looks like Mecole Hardman's role in the offense is probably going to be a little larger. Whether Corey Davis was going to make the team or not is another story, but if he did, I mean, that cuts into Mecole Hardman's playing time. Now it's a little bit more clear cut. So just continue to think about how these developments, whether it's an injury, whether it's a player you don't expect to gets cut or retires, if a trade takes place, consider the ripple effects, right? I mean, I'm not crazy about Devin Singletary at this point, but I could use another running back, and he's fallen 7 or 8 spots below his ADP, so I might as well just go ahead and scoop him. I do think Ty Conklin is becoming a guy, a deep, long shot tight end that I think makes a lot of sense to target. He's been on the field with Rodgers in practice a lot. I think he was the clear guy over CJ Uzomah last year. I don't think that has changed this year. He's looking like a really good investment at the very end of your draft if you punt the position. I like, a deep, really waiting on tight end. He's probably going to he would have to be your tight end 2. But he's probably going to be a streamable option before long. With this winding down, again, happy to take any other questions if you've got anything draft related. Otherwise, or any questions in general. Talked about the wide receiver injuries at the top. So if you missed that, if you want to hear any thoughts about Jerry Jeudy, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Terry McLaurin, that's at the top of the show. Before I kicked off the draft, that led things off. If there's no other questions, I can shut this down after this draft wraps up. And we'll be on to the final week of the preseason, with just 2 weeks to go before kickoff between the Lions and the Chiefs. I don't need a tight end too, but Dawson Knox would present a stack for me with Josh Allen. I could also take Irv Smith, who has significantly fallen past his ADP. I'll take Knox. Knox is the guy who's actually had some success compared to Irv Smith. And I have Josh Allen. So we can go ahead and lock up that stack. I don't need him because I have Kelsey, but I have Allen, so I might as well put at least a small stack together before this wraps up. 2 more picks to go. I will take another wide receiver for sure. Could be one of the Giants wide receivers. You know what a good question is? I mean, whoever the Seahawks wide receiver 3 is, I don't know that necessarily that competition has been determined or sorted out yet. But whoever that might be. Jake Bobo? D. Eskridge is suspended for the first 6 games, so no way. Nobody else has a recorded ADP. So we're going to go ahead and just let that one go. I guess keep an eye on if any one player emerges as Seattle's wide receiver 3 in Smith-Njigba's absence, but I don't know that I'm worrying too much about that. I think there's at least a couple people in here who are auto drafting at this point. Again, this is a non-tournament entry. Just wanted to throw something together for you guys to visualize as we continue to move through draft season, or get up to draft season, basically. If it's helpful for you guys to visualize these drafts and see how they play out, and you can take from it whatever you choose to, whether it's something that you feel like was helpful, whether it's like what maybe you're like me to like today specifically. I'm not crazy about this team, to be completely honest. I kind of wish I had done things a little differently. That doesn't mean that I'm dead. It doesn't mean that the team is going to be bad, but looking back, there are some different things that I would have done. I drafted Josh Allen in the 3rd round. So instead of taking J.K. Dobbins in the 6th, I should have taken Gabe Davis to get the stack. And then I would have been able to draft a running back with my next pick. Probably not lose too much value there. Took Travis Kelce, but I didn't stack him with Mahomes. I'm not angry about that one. I'm not mad about that one, but Kelce with the 6th overall pick is going to have to have yet another truly special season, which he's certainly capable of. He's been doing it for 3 years straight, 4 years straight at this point. I mean, he's been the bona fide, clear-cut, far and away tight end 1 for the past 4 years. He can do it again, but he's being drafted with a ceiling of that expectation. So a lot has to go right. And it can. He's the best tight end in the NFL. And Kansas City continues to have a lackluster collection of talent at wide receiver. So he should dominate targets yet again. Let's see. I've been drafting a lot of Darius Slayton recently, so let's shake things up and get his teammate. We'll take Paris Campbell. as my 8th wide receiver here. I am not going to take another quarterback. I am going to ideally grab a 6th running back. Evan Hull fits that description, considering we are not expecting Jonathan Taylor back in Indianapolis. So this will about do it. I'm not going to, I don't think there's any need to share the board here. This was a non-tournament entry. This one was a little less exciting. I know there were several auto drafters in here, so it made it a little bit more of a sluggish draft. So apologies there. But all in all, Allen and Smith as my quarterbacks. I mean, I expect high-end play from Josh Allen. You expect him to give you performances regularly that pretty much help carry you. Najee Harris, J.K. Dobbins, Brian Robinson, Ezekiel Elliott, Devin Singletary. This is not a sexy collection of running backs. Make no mistake. It's rather boring. It feels like on paper, it looks kind of blah. But I do think there is some decent volume among this group, specifically with Najee and Brian Robinson. So I guess I'm banking on that. And sometimes that's all it takes in for your running backs. They may not be good, but they might get the rock enough because they're their team's best option, and therefore they're fantasy relevant. Jalen Waddle, Tyler Lockett, Michael Pittman, Sky Moore, Zay Jones, Michael Gallup, Jaden Reed, Paris Campbell. This feels like a ragtag crew of wide receivers, to be completely honest. Jalen Waddle's a bona fide stud. Tyler Lockett is a stud. I think Michael Pittman is good. It's been hard to tell with the quarterback play. That's not his fault. And then a collection of upside wide receiver threes that can hopefully give me, between the 5 of them, some decent performances here and there over the course of the season. And then Travis Kelce at tight end, obviously the best option there is at the position. He's going to have to be able to come through yet again in a historic fashion for him to hit at his ADP. It's something he's capable of. Dawson Knox to round things out. For some tight end depth, a guy to catch passes from Josh Allen, who I have at quarterback. We'll see what happens. I was going to take Evan Hull. This guy keeps taking my team. Very rude. All right, well, I'm just going to take Latavius Murray then, because he's also a guy attached to Josh Allen, and he's really cheap, and the Buffalo backfield is a difficult one to predict. So I might as well take a veteran who has a chance to stay pretty relevant in the backfield, at least for this season. And there you have it. I'm not crazy about this team, but it's a 17-week season, and you never know. I should have maybe grabbed a 3rd quarterback. But again, in best ball, you're playing for your ceiling. You are not worried as much about, filling in the gaps and, streaming matchups. You can't do that. So if you draft Josh Allen high, don't worry about, getting that 3rd quarterback necessarily. You're playing for the ceiling anyway. If anything happens to Josh Allen, your 3rd quarterback is not going to save you. So that'll do it for this draft. Again, appreciate you guys coming in and hanging out. I would say be really cautious drafting. I love Travis Kelce this year, but again, that 6th overall pick with an ADP that high, I mean, he's deserving of it. He's worthy of it. But he's going to have another historic season, which he's certainly capable of, for that to pay dividends. Grab your wide receivers. Even in half PPR, if you start 3 receivers, grab them early. Do not wait. Obviously, don't play victim to, don't chase things. Don't chase things for the sake of chasing. You do want to let the board come to you. But ideally, you don't, if you start 3 receivers, ideally you don't have 3 running backs with your first 4 picks. You have at least 2 wide receivers, and it's okay to have 3. So, attack your scoring, attack your league's starting lineup. If you start 3 receivers, attack receiver. If you only start 2 receivers, running backs have a higher priority. Don't worry necessarily about getting one of the elite quarterbacks in the 3rd round. There's going to be just as good option if you still want to get a good one. Trevor Lawrence comes to mind. Justin Herbert comes to mind in the 6th round, 7th round in these redraft leagues, your home redraft leagues. These guys are probably going to fall that far down into the 6th or 7th round in redraft leagues. So, and then obviously, your draft mates better than anybody. You know their tendencies. You know what they're more likely than not going to do. Generally speaking, leagues have trends. If it's a league that historically prioritizes running back no matter what, they're going to continue to prioritize running back no matter what. You know that going in. Play to the knowledge of your teammates and play to the strengths of your starting lineup and your scoring. We'll go over this stuff next week as well for anybody who's continuing to draft into next week and this weekend. If you're drafting this weekend, obviously best of luck. But you can hit me in Discord if you have any other questions, if you need any help with your draft or how it's going, you need any advice, I will be around. Join the Discord if you're not already in there. It's the 2nd link in the description of this video. It's the 2nd link in the description of all of my videos if you happen to check out the channel. I can help you out. Feel free to jump in there. Talk shop with the community if you're drafting this weekend. Otherwise, thank you guys again for coming in and hanging out. Enjoy your weekends. Have fun. Stay safe. I will see you guys on Tuesday. Thanks, everybody.